Welcome into the Playbook, guys. We are back for another episode. You know me, Colin Schofield, co-sports editor, here with Sienna Conahan, the other co-sports editor, and Jacob Moreno, assistant sports editor. Got a lot to talk about this week here on the Playbook. Football had a good couple weeks. The non-revs are kind of winding down, so we're going to look at some encapsulating stuff for the non-revenue sports. Basketball is about to pick up as well. We're a week away from games. So pretty full episode for you guys today. But, to start things off, guys, how are we feeling today? How are we feeling being back, in our podcast room here?
I am feeling so great, Colin. I'm so glad you asked. I got 8 hours of sleep, and I don't feel horrible right now. I'm so ready to talk about some Temple sports.
I'm happy for you, Jacob. I'm happy for you.
I'm also happy for you. That sounded extremely sarcastic, but I think you were being for real. So, I'm not doing too bad. Did not get 8 hours of sleep. So
neither did I.
Feeling a little tired, but aside from that, I'm doing pretty good. How about you, Colin?
I'm good. I did not get 8 hours of sleep either. Sam, when was the last time you think you got 8 hours of sleep?
That is a fantastic question. I'm sure I did over the summer. I'm sure that happened at least once.
I think I'm in the same boat as you.
Yeah.
So good vibes all around for today's episode, and some good vibes around this Temple football program, guys. Since we've last recorded, they went 2-0, 2 road wins, 2 conference road wins. They took down Charlotte, a pretty bad Charlotte team, albeit, 49-14 on October 18th for their first conference road win since 2019. They followed that up with a 38-37 overtime win at Tulsa on October 25th, putting them 1 win away from bowl eligibility. And look at that Tulsa game specifically. Tulsa entered 2-5, 0-4 in conference play. That's a Tulsa team that's way better than their record. The conditions were pretty bad, and Temple's defense didn't play the best. They still squeaked out a win despite going into halftime losing, and a lot of things kind of going against Temple in that game. So guys, just kind of looking at the last 2 weeks, what are some of your takeaways? Now this team's now 5-3. They're 1 win away from bowl eligibility. The offense has really been humming lately. So kind of talking about what you guys have been seeing the last couple weeks.
I think you hit the nail right on the head or nose, whatever they say. The offense has just been so explosive. 49 points. You said against a bad Charlotte team, but 49 points. It's 49 points. Then you got 38 against Tulsa. And I mentioned him last week, but Keziah Holloway just continues to ball, looking like one of the Temple's best wide receivers, if not the best these past few weeks. 85 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, and Temple's offense, especially in the passing game, has just been so explosive. Evan Simon last week, 267 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interception. I believe that's still a streak that stands, right? He has not thrown an interception.
He has not thrown an interception at all this year.
So, I think heading into Tulsa, it was interesting to see if they can kind of establish the ground game, but they really seem to just continue to kind of go along with their passing, which has just really served them so well in these past few weeks.
Yeah, I agree with everything Jacob said. I'll go on maybe a little not as positive note. During the Tulsa game, their secondary struggled. Like they've been really good at pass offense, pass defense, not so much. They've had injuries in the secondary, so that definitely hasn't helped. But that's something that I've definitely noticed in these past 2 weeks. Their secondary has been struggling some.
Yeah, their secondary against Tulsa. I mean, Baylor Hayes, their redshirt freshman quarterback, still, I think, making only his 4th or 5th career start, had 296 yards and 3 touchdowns. Really has kind of had whatever he wanted down the field. And granted, Temple's pass rush was not the greatest, as, they would get in the backfield, but they would fly right past Baylor Hayes instead of, kind of getting at his heels and bringing him down. Casey Keeler talked about that on Monday. But we talked about the offense. Jacob, you especially kind of took my next question out of my mouth, so I'll come up with something else. But Evan Simon right now has 21 touchdowns, no interceptions. Keziah Holloway, 3 touchdown performance. He leads Temple in every receiving category with 31 catches, 426 yards, 6 touchdowns. Tight end Peter Clark continues his breakout year, 23 catches, 378 yards, 4 touchdown catches. And my next question was going to be about how important Keziah Holloway has been to the offense. But guys, what has helped the offense just click so well this year? I mean, they are really, it feels like every game they are just on a roll consistently. What has worked this year?
I think just on offense, they just have so many weapons. You mentioned Peter Clark having a breakout season. Obviously, JoJo Bermudez, Kajai, as we talked about, Colin Chase, Jay Ducker, even though the run game hasn't been as dominant as it was in the first few weeks, just having that offensive variety has kind of unlocked a lot of things, and Evan Simon just has a lot of tools just to beat a lot of different coverages, which is why they've just been so successful.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. And also, I think, like, this season is just a completely different Temple team than I've ever seen. So, like, I think a big part of it is everyone kind of, like, immediately and completely bought into Casey Keeler and the rest of the coaching staff. So I think that has a lot to play into it. And just, like, Evan Simon taking on that leadership role, all the guys, like, look up to him, listen to him. So I think, like, a combination of all of that has just really allowed this team to at least exceed my expectations. So
yeah, I think they're exceeding a lot of people's expectations right now. Again, like I said a little bit earlier, they are one win away from their first time being bowl eligible since 2019. But the schedule gets hard from here. Like, it gets pretty difficult. Their next two games on November 1st, this coming Saturday, they're back at home to take on East Carolina. And then on November 8th, they travel to Army, where, we may have some live coverage from Army for you guys there. But they will be in West Point to take on an Army team that is always tough. Again, another really run-heavy team, even more run-heavy than Navy. East Carolina, their upcoming matchup, they're 4-3. But this is a really good East Carolina team. They only give up 17 points per game, one of the better defenses in the country, on top of an offense where they returned quarterback Caton Hauser, who we just talked about the kind of secondary struggles. Last year, Caton Hauser threw for 269 yards and 5 touchdowns against Temple. And now he's back at East Carolina having another really solid year. So, guys, these next two games coming up, what are you kind of looking to see? What are your predictions for these two games? What is Temple's record going to be when we talk on the playbook again?
I think I could see them going 1-1. I think, like you said, ECU might be more of a difficult opponent considering the defense, because Temple really hasn't faced, I would say, an elite defense in a while. So seeing how their offense can be put to the test to see if they can kind of sustain that momentum. But I think Army, a team that is 2-3 in conference play, 3-4 on the season, I think Temple, despite being on the road, has a good chance of pulling out that win. But it'll be interesting to see, because you mentioned ECU's quarterback kind of gashed them for almost 300 yards last season.
Yeah,
like
almost 300 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, so like if the secondary is struggling now, then that might be a bad sign of things to come on the defensive end. So I think a 1-1 finish in these two games is most possible. But I mean, 2-0, not entirely out of the equation as well.
I think I was also thinking a 1-1. I think Temple is going to struggle against ECU, specifically on the defensive end. But I think they can pull out a win against Army.
I like it. I like 1-1. I'm almost more on the side of 2-0, personally myself. But 1-1, Temple fans should be happy that'll be bowl eligibility. It's still possible to miss a bowl game at 6-6. It's happened in the past. 7 wins would pretty much guarantee you a spot. But regardless, some really good things happening with Temple football, especially on that offense. But now let's move a little bit. Let's move into the non-revs, where we're starting to wind down here with the non-revs. The season's starting to come to a close. We're going to start with field hockey, a team that we talked about for a while, really being kind of like almost the cream of the crop of the non-revs, but had a rough couple weeks since we last recorded. On October 17th, they lost 3-2 to Old Dominion in double overtime, heartbreaking loss. And they lost 3-2 to Penn on October 19th. Then they lost to Liberty in a shootout, 3-2. That's number 7 Liberty. And then they finally got back in the win column. They took down number 14 Yale 2-1 on October 26th. But despite coming off a win, the field hockey team, due to tiebreakers, is eliminated from the Big East tournament. First time they're going to miss the tournament since 2019. First time they're going to miss the tournament under head coach Michelle Batiste. So a bit of an unfortunate break for the Temple field hockey team. But you kind of look at the season overall, they brought in a ton of freshmen. They brought in a ton of new players. It was a younger team, and they still managed to go. They're 11-6 right now. They still managed to have a very successful season. We're competing for a spot in the tournament up until the end. Senior Peyton Rager had an outstanding year. She had the most points in a season since 2015. She leads Temple in both goals and assists right now. But really, it was a lot of youth playing right away as well. So, guys, give me a young player that stood out to you guys this year for this Temple field hockey team that maybe establish themselves as a true future building block?
Colin, I think for me it has to be Lucia Magro. In her freshman season, she recorded 7 goals, 2 assists, 16 total points, 21 shots on goal. Her aggressiveness offensively just given the offense such a big lift over the past, X amount of games, and just it's been one of the key reasons Temple was able to kind of remain competitive until obviously getting eliminated. So I believe they only have 1 or 2 games left. So just kind of using these next few games to kind of get her and the other freshmen more reps heading into next season.
Yeah, that's definitely. She became one of the standouts of Temple Field Hockey this year. Was their go-to person on penalty strokes, really big part of penalty corners as well. So she really stepped up in her freshman year. Sienna, you got a player for me over there?
Yeah, I had the same idea as Jacob, but I think Catherine Govan, she really also stepped up for Temple. Another forward, she had 5 goals on the season, 17 shots on goal. Really stepped up in her first year. Kind of came out swinging and was really crucial for Temple.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with, there's a lot of freshmen on this team that played right away. Could have gone with Mara Lenting, Lanika Kirchhoff. I'm going to go with the goalkeeper, sophomore. I'm gonna go with Alex Lepore here. A little bit of a goalkeeper battle in the beginning of the year with Isabel Hospital, who played really well last year. Alex Lepore kind of took that goalkeeper spot and really played well. She had 50 saves in her 14 games started, or 16 games played in. Was the starting goalie in 10 of the wins, had 3 shutouts. Very aggressive style of goalkeeping, which Michelle Batiste really likes, and I think it was important for her to get Lepore some in-game reps this year, with knowing Hospital was going to graduate this year. And that's what happened, and Lepore really proved herself throughout this year. So knowing that you have another rock-in goal going into next year is very important for this field hockey team, as they're going to return. I mean, they're going to lose a pretty good senior class that I think is the winningest class since like the 80s or 90s in Peyton Rager, Lena Nielsen, Augustina Tucheri, Isabel Hospital, and Hallie Ostenbach. Those are really 5 stalwarts that they're going to lose, but with the freshman class they had, the future I think is still pretty bright for this field hockey team. Moving over to volleyball, Sienna Conahan's favorite segment over here, where she speaks for the most and pretty much the last time on our show. They went 2-2 the last couple weeks. They had a 3-1 loss to FAU, 3-0 loss to South Florida. It got pretty concerning. That kind of boosted their losing streak to 7 games, and it looked like the conference struggles were really in effect. But they're coming off back-to-back wins, a 5-set win against UAB and a 3-1 win against Memphis. Sienna, you know the drill. What have you seen the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, out of the 4-3 out of the games that you just mentioned, the last 2 really stuck out to me. The 5-set win against UAB and then the 4-set win against Memphis. For UAB, Temple was up 2 sets and then dropped the next 2 before winning the 5th set to take the win. UAB and Memphis both are sitting at the bottom of the conference with just 1 win in conference play. So that was definitely kind of concerning for a team that has a lot of talent and a lot of skill, but just can't seem to consistently close out matches. But they still have had a lot of standout players. Christiana Green, she recorded a career-high 22 kills last weekend, which, according to our freelancer who was there, she was really, really excited to have a 20-kill double-double. So that was nice to see for just the sophomore hitter. And Olivia Hummel, she's also just stayed consistent, being thrown into a much bigger role this year. She's remained consistent throughout the whole season. But going forward, it's kind of like the same story that we keep telling. Temple just needs to find a way to stay consistent throughout matches and be able to find a way to close out games in the 3rd or 4th set and not have to go to a 5th set when they no longer have the upper hand.
You look at the next 4 games for this team before we talk to you guys again. This is probably the most important 4-game stretch of the season for this Temple team. They're currently 3-7 in conference play, and are sitting on the outskirts of making the conference tournament right now. Their next 4 games, they are hosting Charlotte on October 31st and then go on the road for 3 games. They're at East Carolina on November 2nd, at UTSA on November 7th, at North Texas on November 9th. And now you look at where those 3 teams are. Temple and East Carolina are tied in the American at 3-7. UTSA is 1 game ahead of them. They're 4-6. Charlotte is 6-4, and then North Texas is 7-3 in conference. So 2 teams that are directly around you in conference play, and then Charlotte, which is only a couple games up. So a really important 4-game stretch. Sienna, expectations, we're looking to see this in this stretch here, as this really might be the stretch that determines whether this team is playing tournament basketball or tournament volleyball in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it really is like a toss-up. Like, I see Temple winning ECU and UTSA and Charlotte. Like, those 3, I feel like they can definitely take, based on the way they've been playing recently and pushing games to more sets than needed. The North Texas game, in my mind, is a little questionable. I think Temple has what it needs to be able to win all 4 matches, but based on the way they've been playing these past couple weeks, I would say my expectation is them going 2-2 or maybe 3-1 in these next 4 games.
I think that would be pretty clutch. 3-1 especially would get them kind of right back in the mix for that conference tournament there.
It would be huge for them.
And now let's jump over to women's soccer. We haven't had a lot of positives about women's soccer this year, but they have finally snapped their conference losing streak. Since we last recorded, they went 1-1, just 2 games the last couple weeks, but a 1-0 win against UAB, and then it's a 6-0 loss to the 4th-ranked team in the country, undefeated Memphis. But what we're going to focus on here is that UAB win. A 1-0 win against the Blazers gives them their first conference win since 2021, ending a 37-game losing streak. Their last conference win came against Houston, a team that moved to the Big 12 3 years ago. So that kind of puts into perspective how long it's been since Temple managed to pick up a conference win. I think we talked about this last week, what we want to see from them down the season. And I believe it was either one of us mentioned, it might have been me, mentioned that breaking that streak would be huge. And now that streak is broken. What does it mean, just like mentally, for this team? What does it mean for them to finally get that off their shoulders, knowing they picked up a conference win?
I think it's huge, especially this late into the season. Like, yes, it's disappointing that like they weren't able to do it earlier in the season, and it's unfortunate that it was followed by them playing the 4th-ranked team in the country. But I think it's huge for them. I was at their first game of the season, and their win, I asked them like just kind of what it means, and they said like it felt like a fresh start and like just like a new beginning. So I feel like that might be kind of the same mindset for winning a conference game, like finally breaking that streak, so that going into next year, like that's not one of the big storylines. So I think it was huge for them.
To kind of build off Sienna's point, I covered their 6-0 win against Lincoln, I believe, last month. And after talking to them after that win, it was kind of just a sense of confidence and just like knowing that they actually can score goals and they can pull out victories. So like you said, I'd imagine having a win of this magnitude just meant a lot to them in the locker room, especially with their confidence. And, with the team being now 4-14, being in the tournament is out of the equation. So you just kind of have to look for these positive developments, whether that's on the field or off the field, and just production. So I think it's kind of a good thing for them to kind of have this conference win late in the season, just to kind of build onto next season.
Yeah, and they have one more game left on October 30th at home against UTSA. But you said they're 4-14 right now. It's not the best record in the world, but if you look back last few years, the 4 wins are the most they've had since 2021. Last 3 years, they had 1 win, 2 wins, 2 wins. So, some positives coming out of that. A young team, hopefully they return a lot of those young players as well, such as like Valentina Bitterwolf, Maddie Ward. Tammy Zambino really had a standout year as well. So it's another tough season for women's soccer, but, some real positives coming out in head coach Chris Shaw's second season. Let's jump over to the other soccer team. Men's soccer is still kind of struggling right now to find its footing, and find its footing is a little late. They are just 1-11-2, have lost 7 straight games, still winless away from the Temple Sports Complex. They've also played just 2 games since we last talked to you guys. 4-2 loss to Memphis, and then a 2-1 loss to South Florida. Really heartbreaking loss to South Florida. Last-minute penalty goal that kind of eliminated the chance of a tie or a draw. They finally scored multiple goals in the game against Memphis, the first time they did that this year. Still resulted in a 4-2 loss, but something a little bit positive. Jacob, you covered the game against South Florida. What have you kind of seen the last couple of games from this team? What have you kind of seen as the season's winding down here?
I think that game specifically, it was just, like you said, a heartbreaking loss. It was one of those losses where it just kind of felt like the air was sucked out of the field because they did tie it with, I believe, less than 10 minutes to go in the game. And before that penalty kick from USF, like, Temple had, I don't know if it showed up in the box score, but Temple got really close to scoring a few times. Like, that goal from Anthony Perez late in the second period, it really energized the team. And just, they were attacking the goal in ways we really haven't seen this season. And that kind of goes into my overall point, the offensive production or lack thereof. It's been a big telling point, and it is the reason that they are 1-11-2. So them kind of being able to take some strides offensively, even though it results in a loss, could be good for them, from both a production, like, mental standpoint, especially with 2 games left.
Yeah, and they finish out their season on the road against a really good Charlotte team on October 29th, and then they end their year at home against UAB on November 2nd. So maybe a chance to pick up a conference win to end the year, but overall a tough season for Brian Green and company after, making a run to the conference tournament last year. But with non-refs kind of winding down now, that means we're getting into basketball season. Jacob, we know you're excited over there. We're going to have a lot of basketball content the next couple of days for you, next couple months for you guys, including our basketball preview is going to be in stands a week from the day we're recording this on a Tuesday. But so we won't spend too much time basketball right now because we're going to spend a lot of time the next few episodes. But it's just kind of a little bit here and there. Men's basketball tips off their season on November 5th at home against Delaware State. Probably about a week from when you're listening to this right now. Give me one player you guys are looking to have an impact this year. Maybe someone that people aren't really thinking about a lot, but what's one player you guys looking to have an impact?
You threw me off with that last part of the question because I was looking at one person who a lot of people are thinking about. But I'm gonna keep with my answer anyways, even though it's not really what you asked.
It's fine.
I'm gonna say Aiden Tobiasen. One of the 2 returning starters, him and Babatunde Duradola, both going into their sophomore seasons. They both were really big for Temple last year. Baba started in every game, but Aiden really stepped up during the Big 5 Classic against Villanova and earned the starting role from there. He was crucial on the defensive end for Temple. Didn't put up a lot of shots, but when he did take a shot, it was a good look, and it usually went in. So I'm definitely looking at him to kind of take on more of a scoring role. He hinted at it at media day, and then same with head coach Adam Fisher. He said that they're looking for Aiden to put up more shots, and maybe like even triple or quadruple the shots he had last year. So I'm looking at him for a more scoring role.
To kind of answer your question in a more like a player not everyone's talking about, I think I have to say Masai Gilliard, especially having gone to media day yesterday in their practice. You just saw the energy he provided vocally and just the way he went about things, and also just on the court. Very good offensive rebounding guard, and that's just what Temple is about. That's the culture Adam Fisher's been trying to build. Guards who will do the dirty work and make those winning plays, and Masai really just fits that. And Temple obviously has a lot of guards, but I think he's just going to be the one of them who just truly brings energy on the floor. So I'm looking to see what he can contribute from both like an on and off the court standpoint.
I like both those answers. I'm going to take C.J. Hines from Alabama State, transferring again. There's 11 new players on this team. This is a very new basketball team that we're about to watch this year. A couple freshmen, a lot of transfers, a lot of guys coming up a level or a couple guys dropping down a level as well. I'm going to take C.J. Hines. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Steve Settle, just a little bit older in terms of the experience he brings. He brings March Madness experience. Steve Settle had March Madness experience at Howard. C.J. Hines played in the NCAA tournament last year with Alabama State, was in part of a win in the first 4 against St. Francis, and then had, I think, 10 points against, I think they played Auburn in the first round, but regardless, scored 10 points against a number 1 seed. He brings more than 2,000 career points to Temple. Really could provide them with that scoring push against it. No one really knows what the starting lineup's going to look like. CJ Hines could be in the starting lineup as, kind of a wing. He could be coming off the bench as a scoring punch off the bench, but he's a guy I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how he uses his experience and scoring to help this Temple team. And with men's basketball comes women's basketball. They're also preparing to start their season. They open up on November 3rd against George Mason. They'll actually have played 2 games by the time we talk to you guys again. They'll also host George Washington on November 7th. This is a women's basketball team that has a tough non-conference schedule this year. It was kind of the same last year, but they're playing at West Virginia, a tournament team, at Richmond, a preseason ranked team. Villanova is always a tough test. Michigan State is a tough team. They could play Clemson down in the Bahamas. VCU comes to the Accor Center. Princeton's always a good Ivy League team. They're at Princeton. So really tough non-conference schedule again for these guys. Coming off another 20-win season. Return a lot of the same faces. They lose Tiara East, they lose Tariana Gary, Amaya Oliver and Nissa Rivera as your depth bigs. But other than that, they return a lot of good pieces. Guys, give me an impact player you're looking for the women's basketball team.
For this one, I'm going to go with Sanaya Craig. Losing... you stole my field hockey player, so it's only fair. That's why I kept the mic. But yeah, Sanaya Craig, she is a forward. I think can really, really help Temple's rebounding efforts. Last year, she set the Jacksonville's single season rebounding record with 326 rebounds, averaged 11.6 per game. So I think she's just going to be crucial on the boards, keeping Temple with possession. That's not how you phrase that sentence, but you understand what I mean. So yeah, she's one of the impact players I'm looking at.
To kind of go along with that, I think I'd have to go Tristan Taylor just because of the fact that they lost Easton Gary, so Temple's going to need more scoring. Obviously, Kayla Turner's going to step into that a lot, but also Tristan Taylor, she really took some strides and established herself as an elite floor general last season. So I'm interested to see if she kind of maintains that role or if she kind of increases her scoring output. But to your point, Diane Richardson said at Media Day today that she envisions Tristan Taylor and Sanaya Craig running a lot of pick and rolls together, which is something that could be pretty deadly with Sanaya's ability to roll and Tristan's ability to collapse the defense and create some advantages. So interested to see how she kind of commands Temple's offense this season.
On Instagram, you can find all of our coverage at ttn.sports. And on Twitter, you can find it all at ttn_sports.
Stay tuned for all of our coverage and more coming up. Basketball preview, less than a week. A lot of exciting things happening with that at temple-news.com. Guys, that's temple-news.com.
.com.
Thanks for listening.